The 20th of May, Rabbi Globus, substituting for Rabbi Levitt, Gemora. And he'll join.
Okay, hopefully he'll join us. So we were in the second wide line. That's where we got up to anyways. Second wide line, Amale Markashisha. So now, where we're holding in the Gemara is that Abaye changed his mind. And
Right.
why did he change his mind? Based on the din of Almana Mina Erusin. And he takes it as a fact that Almana Mina Erusin has a right to a kasuba.
Right.
So now the Gemara is going to ask about that. How does he know that? That's what made him change his mind. But how does he know there is such a din?
Oh, right. That's what I was wondering also.
I thought that was the kind of question you would ask.
Who says? Okay. Amar lay Mar Kashisha Beria, Beri, Derav Chizda, the Rav Ashi. Mar Kashisha, son of Rav Chizda, told Rav Ashi, V'almana min ha'erusin de'is le kasuba mina lan. From where do we know that a widow from Erusin has a right to collect the kasuba? I'm
Right.
sticking in.
I just wanna correct your pronunciation on one word. You read the Islay, and it really says the Isla. And the difference is that if it would say Islay, it would have a yud in the middle, and then it would be masculine. He has. Here it's without the yud, so we say law. She has. And the only reason why I'm pointing that out is because it makes it easier to understand Gemoras when you know who they're talking about. So
Right.
one of the clues is masculine and feminine, which we don't have in English, obviously. I mean, sometimes we do. Some pronouns we are the same, but I guess in this case it would be the same in English. She has or he has. So we have a distinction in English also.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so Ilema may ha disnan. If you will say that we learned it from the Mishnah, from a Mishnah, Nis ar Mala o Nis Garsha. A widow or divorcee, Bain min ha-erusin uvein min ha-nesuin, whether from betrothal or marriage, Gova es hakol, she collects everything.
So that sounds pretty clear.
Yeah.
So now they're going to slug it up.
Dilma hecha de chasav la.
Yeah.
Perhaps perhaps it's a case where he wrote it for her. Her husband wrote a ketsuva.
Mhm. Maybe that's what the Mishnah is talking about when it said that the Amana Min Eresin gets a ksuba. Maybe it's because he wrote her a ksuba, but if he didn't, then she wouldn't get.
So in other words, he's not actually her husband yet, but nevertheless, when he engaged her, he wrote her a kasuba.
Yeah, I don't know what the right term is. We could call him a fiance. Let's say, I don't know really exactly. A betrothed woman, that's a good word, betrothed, because we don't use that word anymore. Nowadays we say a woman gets engaged, right?
Right.
So modern engagement is not the same as erising. It's not a kinyan like erising is. Betrothed is like an ancient custom, and there's an actual kinyan behind it. So what do you call the guy? What do you call the guy now? The betrothed?
Fiance.
Fiance. Okay, so we'll call him fiance. Good.
Actually, there is some similarity because, for example, my understanding is that if a man gets engaged to a woman,
Yeah.
and then he backs out,
Yeah.
she can sue him for breach of promise.
Really?
Yeah.
But the laws of adultery don't apply, right? If she
No,
committed adultery,
there's no law of adultery for a married woman either. I'm talking about American law.
in American law, it's not adultery is not against the law,
I don't believe so.
but it is grounds for asking for a divorce, right? It
Uh,
would be,
I believe the answer is yes.
and if she wants to part with them, so she would need a divorce, right? But if they're just engaged, it's not grounds to break off the engagement because she can just break it off whenever she wants and she doesn't need a divorce, right?
Right, but I think it would be grounds for killing a breach of promise suit.
Breach of promise. Okay, I can hear that. So it is something you're saying it has some legal status.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but I agree with you. It's not the same. It's not as strong. Okay, so where were we now? So we're saying maybe the Mishnah is talking about a case where he voluntarily wrote her a kasuva at Erison.
Right.
Okay. V'chi tema my the memra. And if you will say why, why
say it?
why say it? Let's see. The English here says, why was it necessary to say such an obvious ruling in the Mishnah? If a husband writes a kasuva for his wife, of course she may collect.
Right.
Uh-huh. If you will say that, the apuke mi de Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. It's to exclude the what is said by Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Amar Shalo Kasav La Ella Al Minas the Chonsa. He said, he wrote them to her. He wrote the Kesuva to her only with the intention of bringing her into Nisuin, so that the fact that he wrote it for her would not be significant if he died before they went into Nisuin, because he wrote it on condition it would only be a valid document if they got married.
Right. It didn't go into effect yet. That's what he says. That's what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says. So since that opinion exists, it makes sense to say that the Mishnah is telling us against his opinion. It's telling us that the halacha is not like him.
Right.
You had a kasha, we said, what's the Mishnah telling us? It's telling us something so obvious. If he wrote her a ksuba, of course he has to pay her a ksuba. So the Gemora says, wait a minute, it's not so obvious. Rabbi Elazar says even if he wrote her, he doesn't have to pay it because he wrote it on condition. There's a stipulation that it goes into effect when they get married.
Right.
So since there is such an opinion, it makes sense that the Mishnah is telling us this din, and it's not so obvious after all. And we still have no raya that it's talking about Almana min Eresin.
Sorry, say that last sentence again. We know no raya.
We have no raya that an Almana min Eresin gets her ksuba even without such a document being written.
Right, because maybe it was assuming it was written.
Yeah.
Okay, each stricha lay. It's therefore necessary. It's therefore necessary to what?
For the Mishnah to state this din.
Right. Okay. Okay, so where are we now? We said that how do we know that a widow from Erison collects? We know because of this Mishnah. Oh, but maybe the Mishnah assumed that there was a Kesuva.
Yeah.
But even so, we needed to tell us because of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah.
So that puts us back at square one. How do we know that Almana min Eresin has a right to a ksuba?
No, wait, haven't we established that because of the Mishnah?
The Mishnah could be talking about where he wrote her ksuba, but how do you know if he didn't?
I see. It's necessary, even if he wrote her the Kesuba, it's necessary to tell us that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I got it. Dikanami, also, the Mishnah implies dikatane.
The Mishnah, it's implied from the Mishnah that the pshat is that he wrote her a ksuba. That's what the Gemora is now trying to say. It's not just possible that the Mishnah is saying that. It's in fact probable that the Mishnah is saying that.
Okay. For the Mishnah taught, Gova es hakol. She collects everything.
Yep.
E amras bishlema. If you say that it is understandable, de kasav la, that he wrote it for her, that the fiance wrote a kasuba for the woman. Ayinu deka tane Gova es hakol. Then why did the Mishnah teach she collects everything?
He's saying that that's why it would say she collects everything, because he actually wrote her something. The statement that she collects everything makes sense if he wrote her a ksuba.
Because then there's things in the kasuba that are in addition to the basic 20,000 shekels or whatever it is.
Exactly.
So even though he may have had the condition that the kasuba doesn't go into effect, we're saying that the gezerah includes the additional things also.
So the thing is that it's going to circumvent the gezerah because there's an actual document that he signed. And the Mishnah is passing against Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says that it was only on condition that he marries her. We don't hold that way. We say if he signed a ksuba and gave it to her, he's promising her this money. And whatever he promised, he got to pay. Even if he promised 100,000, he got to pay it. And that's why the Mishnah said hakol, goves hakol.
Right.
So that's
just know that we're not.
Yeah, go ahead.
To let us know that we're not holding by Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah.
Right. And it's not dependent on the gezerah because he voluntarily signed and gave her a ksuba.
Right. Right. Ella I amras delo kasav la, but if you want to say that he didn't write her a kasuba, so therefore the gezerah is teaching us that even in the absence of a kasuba, she gets her money.
Right.
My gova esakol. Why does it say esakol? There is no hakol.
Exactly.
There's only the basic law of the kasuba because there is no kasuba to specify additional things. Mana uma saim hu de isle. She gets 100 or 200, period.
That's right. So it doesn't make sense to say gova hakol.
Right. So it can't be that it's including the case where he didn't write her. It has to be that we assume that he wrote it for her.
Right.
Early.
Right. So now we threw that mission. We conclusively threw that Mishnah out. That's not where Abaye knew the din from. So we're still in search of the source for Abaye. How does he know that Amana Mina Erisin gets her suba money?
Right. Ella midatane Rav Chia bar Ami. Rather, we get it from a brisa taught by Rav Chia bar Ami. Ishto Arusa, a woman who is an Arusa. It's funny, it says Ishto, because Ishto implies that she's his wife. But if she's an Arusa, she's not his wife, right?
That's the way we usually use the term, you're right. But it's still called it, even an Arusa is the Isur of Ashes Ish applies to her. The Isur of Ashes Ish of adultery applies even to an Arusa. And
Right.
we call that in Hebrew Ashes Ish.
Right. Yeah, right. Interesting. Lo onain. He does not mourn her as an onain. Oh, Ishto Arusa, the English says, if she dies,
Right,
he does not mourn her as an onain.
right,
Velo mitame la, and he doesn't become tamei for her. If he's in the case that he's a Kohen, he doesn't become tamei for her.
right,
So she's not. So these are ways in which she's not his wife.
right.
V'chein, and similarly, he lo oneges. She
Onenet,
onenes. She does not mourn as an onenes. Onenes. She does not have the laws of before the burial.
right. It's
Uh,
just the feminine form of onain. He's an onain and
and she's
she's
an
an onenes.
onenes. Velo mitam lo, and she does not contaminate herself for him if she's a Bas Kohen, I guess.
It's interesting because the Bas Kohen doesn't have an Isser Tuma. So the Rashi actually says, let's take a look at the Rashi Velo Metamalo. So he says, Lav Mishum Kahuna Kamar. It's not really talking about Kahuna. Den Kanos Musarus Alatuma, a female Kohen has no prohibition of becoming Tame. Dichtiv B'nei Aharon. It says the sons of Aaron have that mitzvah and not the daughters. Ella Ena Zekuka L'Tame Lo. I'm just trying to figure out what is the Bach adding or changing here. Ella Ena Zekuka Nirabe Inai Ve'ayin Mashapir Shash Sanhedrin Liyovamas. Okay, I think the Bach is agreeing with the Gersa. So he says she doesn't have to matami for him. Velo lo kahanas velo Israelis, whether she's a Kohen, the daughter of a Kohen or not. She doesn't have to matami for him. Shemitzvah lis asek b'shiva meise mitzvah. There is a mitzvah to take care of your 7 close relatives if they pass away. Okay, but she doesn't have that mitzvah, and that's what they're telling us here.
Okay, so she doesn't have to, but she can.
Right, correct.
Okay. Whereas in the case of the male, he is not allowed to.
Right.
Okay,
If he's a Kohen.
right. Mesa Eno Yorsha. If she dies, he does not inherit her. Mace hu gova ketubasa. If he dies,
That's the line we wanted to get to.
right. If he dies, she collects her kasuva. Okay, so how do we know he didn't write her a kasuva in this case?
So the assumption, it doesn't say anything about him writing her a ksuba or not. So we're saying maybe Abayi learned pshat in this baraisa that he didn't write her the ksuba, but she gets it anyways. So then the Gemora says, yeah, but there's really no, there's no force, there's no hechek that we have to interpret it that way. It could be that he did write it.
Right, right. So the Hava Amina is that it means that he didn't write it. But then there's Dilma de Kasav La. maybe he did write it.
Right.
V'chi
And so why do we
tema,
think, and why do we think that he didn't? Because if he didn't write her, then, I mean, why do we think that he didn't write her? Because if he did, it's telling us something that's kind of obvious.
right, right. V'chi tema tikasav la my the memra, and if you will say, if you wrote a kasuva, why is it necessary to say it, to state the obvious?
Mhm.
Mesa eno yorsha istaricha le. It is necessary, if she dies, he does not inherit her. Let's see, the English says the law for the collection of her kasuba upon his death was included only incidentally.
Mhm.
Thus, we have no definitive source that a widow from Urson collects a kasuva, and we cannot say that Abaye reversed himself based on this unfounded obligation. I don't follow that.
The thing is that sometimes a Mishnah Barais will give us a whole list of dinim, most of which we already know, but one which we don't. One or
Right?
two we don't know. So it'll give us all the related dinim, just like to be consistent and to be complete. So that's what we're timing over here.
Okay, but still, it's a law, right? It still says it.
It's what does it say?
It says, or kasuva.
It says she gets her ksuba, but maybe he wrote her a ksuba. And that's why she gets it, not because of the takanas chachamim. So if you tell me if he wrote her ksuba, it's so obvious, why do you even need to tell me that? So the answer is, you're right, it is obvious, and I didn't need to tell you that. Really, what I wanted to tell you is Mesain or Yorsha. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Oh, so I just happened to mention it because it was a part of the list.
Exactly.
I see. I see. Okay. Ella, rather, Abaye migufa de masnisin ko hadar be. Abaye reversed himself based on the Mishnah itself.
Yeah.
De isal kadaisach b'makom she'ein kosvin kasuba askinan. For if you suppose we discuss in the Mishnah a locale where they do not write a kasuva, the get hayinu kasuva tzah, because the get serves as a kasuva, ought to get mana may asayim ma'asayim kasiv bay.
Question mark.
Pardon?
Question mark.
Question mark. Is 100 or 200 written in a get? Let's see, why is it asking that? If you suppose we discuss a locale where there's no kasuva, because the get is in place of it. Oh, how do we know if it's 100 or 200? That's what it's asking. But wait a second, we know she's a. Oh, no, we don't know. We don't know. Okay. So now we have the problem that if you're going to assume that there's no kasuba, then how are we going to figure out whether it's 100 or 200?
So here, Rashi did us an immense favor and he explained to us what the Gemora means. So let's read it.
Okay.
Ella Abaye.
Let's see. Rashi. What's the Dibur Maskil?
Ella Abaye. And there's another two more after that.
Ella Abaye. Da Amar La'ayil Lav Milsa he. That it says above that Lav Milsa he. It's not these words.
Lav Milsahida Amri. What I said is nothing.
What I said is nothing. Migufa de Masnisin de Ots Ihe Otsie get Mishum de Hai Gova.
Gufa.
I'm sorry.
Gufa.
Gufa. Kate
Kasha.
Hadar Bay. What is the OZ?
Hotzia, she took out.
She took out the get
Yeah.
from a place, because that it was the text of the, what's this Katia?
Kasha.
The text of the kasha, of the question, that was in it.
So let me help you out here. This Rashi is a little bit difficult to read. Ella Abaye. Rather, Abaye da Amr le'elav milsahi da Amri. Abaye, who said previously, what I said is nothing. Migufa de masnisin de hotzia get. It was from the Mishnah itself, the Mishnah that said hotzia get. There was something in that Mishnah that made him retract. Mishum dehi gufa kashale hadarbe, because it itself has an internal kasha, therefore he retracted.
What's the internal kasha?
So now Rashi is going to try to spell it out for us. The isal kadaite.
That if you would think de tama lav mishum deis dein to anin. If you would think that the reason is not because that it's not, there's no claim.
Right. That was the original statement of Rabbi Yochanan.
He said there is a claim when you have a Meiser based end.
Okay, here we're reading it de'ain. There is not. This is one of the most confusing words in the Gemara because in could mean yes, and which is an Aramaic word. Ain is a Hebrew which means there is not. So you just have to get it from the context. Mishum because there is no taina that a person can make after a Ma'aseh Beis Din. Here it's a negative.
There is no. I thought he said there is yes.
So okay. So let's take a look back at Yud Zayin,
Yud Zayin Amid Base. Yud Zayin Amid Base.
Yud Zayin Amid Aleph, Yud Zayin Amid Aleph at the very, very bottom.
Amid Aleph. Okay. So it says if one claims he paid in the absence of witnesses. No, that's not it.
Amar Rebbe Chia bar Abba.
Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba.
Yeah.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Hatoen acher maaseh based in. A claim after there is an act of the court. Lo amar klum. He hasn't said a thing. We don't believe him.
Rashi. Yeah.
We don't believe him when he says that he didn't pay, that he did pay.
We don't believe him when he says he paid, right? So Rashi, back to our Rashi, he's paraphrasing that, and he's saying, "The time alav mishum de'en tonin achar ma'aseh beis din." The reason is not because there is no claim after a ma'aseh beis din. That's another way of saying a toin achar ma'aseh beis din lo amar klum.
Okay, so we're saying a claim that he paid after there's a court order is an invalid claim.
Right. So if you say that that's the explanation of the Mishnah,
Right? Ella, but mishum de get, because of a get, hayinu kesuva. That because she has a get, it is a kesuba.
and that's why she's getting paid, because of the get, not because of the takonis based in. If you say that's the explanation of the Mishnah, you're going to have a problem. You're going to run into an internal contradiction.
I'm lost.
Okay, so now,
And I got to warn you, we only have a minute and a half left.
so
It's
you
going to
know
cut us
what?
off.
Let's pick it up. Maybe we'll pick it up tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe we can reread these Rashis and
Yep,
try
absolutely.
and in Mitzvah Hashem, I'll try and review it myself.
Great. It's a convoluted Gemora. It's like a real, what they call Mineu Bay.
Right.
It's a convoluted discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go over it tomorrow, Be'ezer Hashem.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Call too.
Take care. Bye-bye.